welcome to another edition of Fantasy Gainz. I am Squish, and right with me, as always, my confidant, Kyle. Kyle, how are we? How's your Wednesday? How's your hump day?
I'm doing well, man, but how are you? I mean, you're in the new spot. About time. You've been waiting a long time for this. So how are you feeling? Got the Cubs sign behind you, even though they're dead and out of the playoffs?
You said it. I'm feeling good, and you got to really dig me like that. I'm somebody's son, and you just treat me with that disrespect. I don't know. I don't know how I'm supposed to look you in the eye with respect after that one.
I mean, Miami Marlins, man, that's tough. Miami Marlins, whose payroll is probably smaller than my rent that I pay every month. I mean, that's pretty tough.
I mean, I don't know. I've seen your place, and I for a while there, I was wondering how much you were making because it's a pretty nice place. Anyways, yes, in a new place. Now, instead of a dog in the background that I was told I can only hear and nobody else, I now have a busy street outside of my window, which just substitute the dog with the street because I'm going to be complaining about that when nobody else can hear it. Fair
enough. But we can't usually hear that, so it's no big deal. But
all right.
Anyway, so we got a nice Thursday night game coming up this week.
Better
than last week with the disgusting Denver and the Jets game. But we got the Bucks and the Bears. So
yeah, and before we get into that, we need to talk about what we did last week for the new viewers.
Okay.
I did okay. Kyle was on fire. I said you got to fade Travis Kelce. That was spot on. 3 catches for 70 yards, only 8.5 points at 1x. I said start Devin Singletary because he was due for a touchdown. He hadn't had one yet. Finally scored. He had 5 catches, 76 total yards. So it wasn't a huge day, but all they said was he was going to score, and he did. You, though, Kyle, you were 4 for 4. You said fade AJ Green. He had 1 catch for 3 yards, 0.8 points before the multiplier. You said start Dalton Schultz, 4 catches, 72, a touchdown, just over 30 with his multiplier. Said start Melvin Gordon in the single game, and he was the only buddy worth drafting, anybody who really gave that game a good name. He had 2 touchdowns and 118 total yards, 27 points before the multiplier, and your stack did pretty good as well. Stafford, Kamara, Hawkinson, total just under 74. So have yourself a week, Kyle, but don't get used to it, okay?
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to get too cocky over here,
All right, but you said it.
A broken clock is a dead clock is right once a day. Is that the phrase? I think
a broken clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day.
A dead clock is never right because it's dead. And by dead, I mean torn to pieces. A broken clock is right twice a day. I'll take it from here, Kyle. Maybe you should mute yourself. We've got a pretty good Thursday night game here.
Yeah, let's move past that and get to Thursday
for the champion mode slate. Tom Brady against Nick Foles in a Super Bowl rematch. Is it a revenge game for Tom Brady here?
Possibly. I mean, he lost to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl, so I wouldn't be surprised if he takes any matchup against Foles from this point on pretty personally, as Michael Jordan would say. But so for the guy that I like in this game is not Tom Brady. It is Ronald Jones. I think the reason why I would go with Ronald Jones as my must play here for this single game slate is partially with all the injuries that Tom Brady and the Bucs are dealing with right now on the offensive side of the ball. We've already confirmed that Leonard Fournette, Justin Watson, and Chris Godwin will all be out for this game. Mike Evans and Scotty Miller are both dealing with injuries. So, I mean, Tom Brady's all of the weapons that Brady's throwing to outside of Gronk, who, he's kind of broken down anyway.
He looks like a stiff.
Yeah, he does. And he's not even on the injury report. So all those guys are banged up. So, and, short week, Tom Brady's 43 years old, as you've probably heard. So, a 43-year-old quarterback on a short week is
43.
That's not someone. It's not.
Wait, really? Wait, hold on. He's 43.
Yeah, I know. I don't think anyone's ever talked about that before.
That's like wild. Keep going. I'm just taking off guard.
I know. It's like Chris Hogan. He's played lacrosse. No one ever talks about that.
All right. I've never heard that before, so you got to keep going.
But Yeah, I think they're not going to focus on the passing game much this week because of all those things that I just mentioned. And Ronald Jones is going to get a lot of carries, and he had a really nice game last week. 20 rushes, 111 yards, 17.8 fantasy points against the Chargers. I think we're going to see, I would say, maybe 20 to 25 carries from him in this game.
Yep.
And I really like that value at 1.6x as the flex, and then 2.4 as the champion. So with all the issues, injury issues the Bucs are dealing with, I think Ronald Jones is a really good pick for this single game slate.
Wow, Kyle, really going on a limb. 2 weeks in a row, you pick the star running back of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I expected more out of you. First Melvin Gordon, now Ronald Jones.
Hey, we're going with what works, and it worked last week, and it's going to work again this week. So
you're right. A broken clock is right.
They want to know what works. We don't want to go crazy. They want to know what works.
I don't know. Broken clock is right twice a day, though. Try twice. All right. Now I'm catching whatever you have. All right. I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going Cameron Brate. No OJ Howard. You mentioned it. Out for the season with a torn Achilles. The injury report that's there. Gronk looks like a stiff. Cameron Brate is assumed to be getting more of a workload going forward. You all know how much Tom Brady likes his tight ends. And here's a stat, all right? Cameron Brate has a 100% touchdown percentage this year and 100% target percentage. He's caught one ball on one target, and it was a touchdown. You don't get better than that. Every time this man has touched the ball, it has been a touchdown. I'm just spitting the facts here, all right? 100% of the time Cameron Brate touches the ball, he scores a touchdown. He has no drops. He's caught all of his passes and all of his passes for touchdowns. Kyle, you can't even rebuttal that.
Yeah, you can't do much better than that. We don't even need to hear about sample size or anything.
No,
every time he's touched the ball, it's a touchdown. So I hear you. And I think with OJ Howard out, he's going to be a big target for him this year or this game. And Gronk, as you said, is just
he looks like a stiff. That is just they're stealing. Gronk is stealing money from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He does not look like an NFL player.
You said you said a nicer word than what I was going to say. I was going to say he looks like a corpse on the field. Like he just looks dead out there. And I think Cameron Brate is probably a better player than he is right now. And with all the injuries they have, I think Brate's going to see some targets in this game. So,
all right, a useful stat. Instead of those stats, a useful stat, Chicago has let up a touchdown to a tight end in 3 of the 4 games this year. A tight end has not really destroyed them, hasn't really ravaged them, but 3 out of the 4 games they'd allowed a touchdown to a tight end. I like that to continue here, and I like that to go to Cameron Brate, who's going to see an uptick with OJ Howard out for the year and Gronk looking like a corpse.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's gonna be tough for Gronk to be, with how many injuries he has, and I think Brate's gonna be good. And so, who do you got for your full slate pick this week?
Full slate. I'm all on the Mike Davis train. I'm all over this Carolina Panthers hype train.
You were last week.
I was last week. I am again this week. And originally we were skeptical because obviously Christian McCaffrey gets all the touches in Carolina. You were waiting to see, is that because Carolina wants to go through their running backs or because it's Christian McCaffrey? All right, 404 touches last year. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, not obviously, arguably the best running back in the NFL. I mean, if you're asking me, it's unquestionably there is no one else like him. But Mike Davis has stepped in and done very well for himself for this team. He's averaging 21 touches, 100 yards, and a touchdown in his 2 starts. He's averaging 17.5% of the Panthers' targets in those starts. That's the 3rd highest on the team. And Green Bay destroyed Atlanta on Monday night with their running backs. Not really on the ground, only 84 yards on 24 carries. But Green Bay running backs caught 14 of 15 targets for 143 yards and a touchdown. You're going to expect, who knows though, Atlanta might come out and throw up a stinker like they have been all season long. People are expecting the Panthers to be coming from behind. And even if they are, Mike Davis isn't out of the game script. The targets that he's getting, he's gotten 23 targets in his pretty much 2.5 games this season since coming in for Christian McCaffrey. 23 targets. Game script is not going to count him out if they're down. They love to throw the ball to the backs. Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy check down, always going to be looking to do that. I think he's still got good value at where he's at 1.45x. He's not like the 2x or the 1.8x you've seen, but still good value, averaging 21 touches at 1.45x. Give me Mike Davis all day, all long, or all day, all night, the whole time, whatever you're doing. Give me Mike
Twice
Davis.
on Sunday.
Twice on Sunday. If I could put him in both running back slots, I would.
Yep. I mean, he's done a really nice job this so far. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised with how like they have been. I mean, he's not been used like entirely like Christian McCaffrey, but he is kind of filled like that type of role for the Panthers. And it is I'm really surprised how well he's done. And something you can guarantee for within the next week or two, if he keeps this up, is the hot takes. If is Christian McCaffrey overrated? Is Christian McCaffrey replaceable? Like, you can already see Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith on their talk shows, discussing this proposition of Christian McCaffrey being an overrated running back and not one of the better running backs in the league, because Mike Davis just stepped right in and, he hasn't done as well, but he's done pretty well. So there's going to be a lot of hot takes flying around. But so for my guy this week, I was feeling great about this pick all day until a few hours ago, which I still feel good about it, but I don't feel as good. Jamison Crowder for the New York Jets. He's been one of the few positive things with the Jets this year. He got hurt for weeks 2 and 3, dealt with an injury there, but the 2 weeks that he has played in, week 1 against Buffalo, 7 catches for 115 yards, 1 touchdown, 23 fantasy points. And then this game against Denver, 7 catches, 104 yards, 15.9 fantasy points. And I've always thought he's been a really good player, even when he was with the Redskins, just a really talented slot receiver that can get open consistently. And he's by far the number 1 option on the Jets offense. Yep. And I think, I felt better about it when Sam Darnold was throwing him the ball, but honestly, and instead now Joe Flacco is going to be playing. But I think even with Joe Flacco out there, I think he has a great chance of being around, the stats that he has put up in these 2 games that he has played this year. And with a 1.5x multiplier, you're getting a ton of value there with the level of production he's put up in the 2 weeks that he's played. And he's going up against the Cardinals defense that has allowed big games to number 1 receivers, as you can see on the screen here with Terry McLaurin, and with the Redskins, Kenny Galladay got some 14.7 fantasy points when the Lions played the Cardinals, and then this past week, Robbie Anderson, 13.9 fantasy points against the Cardinals. So I think Crowder is going to be I think he's going to be a good option again this week, and especially at that 1.5x multiplier spot. And a thing that I do like is about Flacco playing is I think the Jets are going to be falling even farther behind than they usually do. Yep. So we're going to be seeing them throw the ball late in the game and garbage time, and Jamison Crowder is going to be getting all those garbage time yards and fantasy points.
Yeah, somebody's got to get the ball. You got to give someone the ball. David Lee averaged 20 and 10 for the New York Knicks for about 5 straight years. Somebody has to do something.
And Crowder's very good. Crowder's a very good player. I mean, if you put him on most offenses in the league, he's gonna be very productive. Like, if you put him on, any of these offenses, he's a good player, especially with this Jets team that has nobody, and he's going to be the only guy. So I think
it's worth noting Le'Veon Bell is expected to be back this week for the Jets. I don't know what that's going to mean. I would expect him to be traded sometime before the trade deadline. But it is worth noting that he is going to take some touches there. But like you said, they're going to be throwing the ball. They're going to be checking ball. And yes, Le'Veon can demand touches out of the backfield. But
I wouldn't be surprised if Le'Veon Bell just quits and just walks away. So I'm not a huge I mean, he had some issues with the Steelers with LeGarrette Blount a few years ago, if you remember correctly. And I wouldn't be surprised if that repeats itself with this garbage Jets team. He's just like, screw this, I'm out of here. So I think Jamison Crowder
I think he's getting
traded.
traded.
Getting a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So all right, let's
So
move on
you
to our
love
fades.
Jamison Crowder. Who are you fading? Who do you not like? You can't fade Le'Veon Bell. I'm taking that off the table. You already said you hated him. But who are we fading, Kyle?
So last week I faded AJ Green, and as we said at the top, that that was a good decision. I think you should continue to fade him until he proves that he can be a productive receiver with Joe Burrow, and that he's going to be healthy. But this week I'm fading a guy who had probably one of the best weeks last week on DFS, and that's Joe Mixon, who had 41.4 fantasy points last week against Jacksonville. But this game against Baltimore just screams like, regression back to the means with Joe Mixon here. And he, like, other than that one game last week where he put up the 41 points, he's averaged 7.9 fantasy points per game in the other 3 games that he's played. So he hasn't really had a great season so far, kind of similar to his year last year. And I think Baltimore, like against this Baltimore team where, the Ravens have allowed, they're the 8th best team in the league as far as fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. So that's going to be tough. And they're going to, like I said before with Crowder's going to be getting those yards and points in garbage time because he's going to be down by so much. Joe Mixon is going to be the negative part of that, where the Bengals are going to be getting murdered by the Baltimore Ravens, where Joe Burrow is just going to be throwing the ball all over the field, and Mixon is just not going to be involved in the running game at that point.
Yeah, I do like some of his receivers. I do like Higgins and Boyd this week. Not AJ Green, as you said.
I agree. Yeah.
But what you're saying is screw recency bias, and you're going to throw it out the window.
Yes. I think people are going to be high on Joe Mixon here after his monster week last week. And, I think he could burn a lot of people with that. And I would just.
So what you're saying is, if somebody drafts him, they're just going to get a swift uppercut to the face, a little taste of Joe Mixon's own medicine.
Yes. Exactly. They're going to.
For those of you who know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's going to, Joe Mixon's his uppercut is going to rear its ugly head on some fantasy owners this week. It's going to be bad. And people are not going to see it coming because of what happened this past week. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of Joe Mixon, but.
So you're fading 2 Bengals in a row. Do you hate the Bengals? Do you have something against the Bengals?
I think in this next segment you're gonna realize I do not have a thing against the Bengals. So go with your fade now.
All right, I'm fading Michael Gallup. That Dallas offense, it looks great every single week. They're always playing from behind. There are so many weapons. We talked about Schultz. You've got Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke. You've got Michael Gallup there also. I'll tell you something. 2 weeks ago against Seattle, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 138 yards. 1 touchdown. Ooh, I love Goran Dragic. I do love me some Goran Dragic. But
Goran is
he had 24.8
there. Yeah.
Just under 25 without his multiplier in that one game. All other 3 games that he's played, 15 targets, 7 catches, 137 yards, no touchdowns, averaging 5.73 super draft points per game. He had a huge bright spot. And yes, there is going to be so many opportunities for him because how often Dallas gets behind and they love to throw the ball. But I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling Michael Gallup in a cash game. I'm not. In a tournament style game, yes, I could see that play because there's going to be volume there no matter what. The ball's going to be flying through the air. He might get James Bradberry. I believe Gallup lines up just about evenly on the left and the right. On the right side, I think it's a little bit lower. I believe it's 43% lining up on the right, where James Bradberry will be a very good corner for the New York Giants. Don't have a lot going for them. They got James Bradberry, very underrated. Not getting the love he deserves. And I'm fading Gallup. I think Dak is really focusing on Cooper and CeeDee Lamb more. They totaled 23 targets on Sunday. So I'm not rostering Michael Gallup at all And there are times where just about every week in our contest, I'm like, I need a little bit of Michael Gallup. I need a little bit. I'm taking 0. I don't want anything to do with him. It's too volatile, especially in a cash game.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to what I was talking about with Joe Mixon. Like, he has that big game against Seattle, and you kind of get seduced by that a little bit. But in reality, he's not really been like, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper have been the 2 main guys for the Dallas offense. So I think that's a good fade to, not take the cheese with Michael Gallup.
And I love cheese.
I mean, some cheeses are okay.
Michael Gallup is blue cheese, and I don't go for blue cheese.
Blue cheese is
moldy.
garbage. I'm glad that we can agree on that.
Blue cheese is just gross.
Yeah,
I
agree.
keep
I'm
going.
glad that we're on the same page as that.
About something.
All right, so quickly here with the stacks. So you were talking about how I don't like the Bengals.
Yeah.
I am going with the Bengals here in a stack. Yeah, I know. How about that? So
Shut the hell up.
I know. Joe Burrow. As I said, Joe Mixon is not gonna get many carries because Baltimore is gonna be down. Joe Burrow will be throwing the ball all over the place.
Yep.
As they're going to be down to the Baltimore Ravens in this game. And we've seen that so far. I mean, they got down to the Browns and he threw the ball 60 times, 300 yards in 3 games this year. So I think Burrow's going to put up some numbers and I like him at 1.6x. And Baltimore has struggled a little bit, defending the pass so far this year. So I think he's going to put up some numbers, and I think Mark Ingram is going to be the main guy for the Baltimore Ravens running attack. Yeah. And I would expect him to maybe put a touchdown up there.
He hasn't done too well this year, Kyle.
No, I mean, but when you look at his carries versus Dobbins, I mean, they're pretty even. And I think they're going to be focusing more on running the ball. And at 1.5x, I think that's going to be good. And Tyler Boyd has been the number 1 receiver so far with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think he will get a majority of those targets and will accumulate a lot of fantasy points, unlike AJ Green.
Yeah.
And somehow he has a lower multiplier than AJ Green. I don't know how that happens. Tyler Boyd I think he would be a great spot in your lineup and a part of the stack. So
I will say I would tweak it a little bit. I would tweak it a little bit, and we don't do this, but it's for the viewers like Bert who's trying to figure out a stack here. I would rather have T. Higgins in there for a stack. If you're going to do a cash game, I love Tyler Boyd, but if you're going for that tournament, I want T. Higgins. I want that big play potential, and I wouldn't touch Mark Ingram this week. That's just me. Hand up. I wouldn't do it.
That's fair.
He doesn't get the volume, but I do like he is the running back. J.K. Dobbins hasn't proven himself yet. It's Mark Ingram's job to lose. And we haven't seen that Mark Ingram, that game yet that we saw all last year. And I do think it's coming. I do. Maybe not. Maybe this week. Maybe not this week. My stack, we'll go for it. You can critique me if you want to. You can critique me. Blech. But it's that Panthers-Falcons game. I want Teddy checkdown, Teddy Bridgewater. I want Mike Davis. We already talked about it. They could be down. They might not be down. It doesn't matter. Teddy's going to get his. Mike Davis is going to get his. Any Carolina pass catcher, anybody. You want Robbie Anderson? Take him. You want DJ Moore? Take him. Somebody's getting in the end zone. I can guarantee right now, Teddy's going to have at least 2 touchdowns. He's going to throw for at least 200 yards. He's going to throw a touchdown to a pass catcher other than Mike Davis, and Mike Davis is going to score. Bring it back with Calvin Ridley because I don't think he's getting shut out again like he did last week. 0 catches.
That was wild.
On, I think, 5 targets. That's not happening again. Julio's out. If you want to throw Russell Gage in, cool. More juice. I like that as well. Or who's that third receiver that kept popping up on my screen that they have? Take him. I think he's probably like Gage? A 2X. No, not Gage. What's that guy's name? It's something I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to try. I got to read it. Zacchaeus. He's at 2X. He had some targets in that game. He had over 80 yards. Without Julio Jones, I like that play. If you want to use Hayden Hurst, do it. This game is going to have – it's definitely going over. I'm expecting about 50 to 55 points in this game. We have to wrap up, but quickly, breaking news, the Bucs and Bears game, another similarity, Tom Brady versus Nick Foles. Another similarity is that Malcolm Butler will also not play in this game. I just wanted to rub that in all of your New England Patriots fans' faces. Malcolm Butler will not be in the game, and you can mark that. This has been Fantasy Gainz. That's Kyle. I'm Squish. If you want to fade me, don't. You'll regret it. If you want to fade Kyle, we won't talk about that because a broken clock is right twice a day.
Pain. Malcolm Butler.